Hello, and welcome to this Paychex Special Edition video podcast. I'm Rob Parsons, live from the show floor here at HR Tech 2024. And I'm here today with John Diallo, our Senior Manager of Digital Platform Strategy at Paychex. John is a UX professional with 17 years of experience, both in design practice and leadership. He's passionate about growing designers, sharing knowledge, and creating engaging and educational design content. John, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So this has been an exciting show for you. You gave a live presentation this morning to the whole crowd here at HR Tech.
Yeah, it was great. I really had no idea what to expect. This is my first year at HR Tech, so kind of coming in blind. But it was a packed house. It was great. People seemed engaged, and I think it went pretty well.
That's great to hear. How did it fit in with some of the trends you're seeing at the show this year? I assume you've had a chance to walk the floor and see what's going on?
Yeah, I think one of the things I was trying to do was to give everybody tools that they can use to make a good purchase. Because I'm walking around, I'm seeing a lot of the same kind of language, a lot of the same kinds of terms and features, and that's not a bad thing. A lot of people are going to have similar functions and similar value, but being able to decide which one's going to be right for me is a hard decision. And so that was really the whole purpose of the presentation is here's a couple tools that make a better buying decision.
I've been very interested in how to be a better tech buyer.
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge? I think you touched on one of them. When everybody's saying the same thing, how do I know what's different? What are some of the other challenges business owners, HR leaders are facing when making a tech decision? Yeah,
I think the other big challenge is that everybody has their own unique situation. Every company is going to have its own industry, its own company, the makeup of the employees. No one's going to have the same set of employees or roles. So how do you look at all these options that are out there? It can be super overwhelming to figure out, well, no one can tell me what to buy because I'm my own person. So I think there's sort of the two sides of lots of options and really no one's like me. So how do we get them to meet in the middle? And that's really where UX is going to shine because it's going to help you make sense of that ambiguity and the confusion.
You bring to mind a thought, I need to know what I want out of that technology. I need to understand what technology can do for me.
Yeah.
How much do we dig into that in our UX team in terms of what technology can do to streamline and make processes more efficient, maybe do other things I'm not even thinking about?
Yeah, I think, there's lots of sides of that, but, especially as we're thinking about our clients, our users, the people who are using our software every day, we want to reduce the amount of work it takes for them to get their work done. Because most people, they're not in our software doing their job as the main thing. There are people who do, and we want to make that more efficient. But for the millions of employees who use our software, we want to make it easy and really efficient for them to get in and get out and do it well. So we're always thinking of ways of adopting new technology or available things. We walk around with watches that are smart, we have tablets, and you've got your computer, and all those are opportunities for us to really enhance the experience, and not just enhance it, but also make it more efficient. So
a lot of times when I'm buying technology, it's got to work with other systems I already have in place. I'm not going to get just one thing that's going to replace everything. Yep. How does that come into play? What are the kinds of questions I should be asking my technology perspective provider around that?
Yeah, I think, being integrated, having your data work together is really critical. As we get into more, data companies, everyone's becoming more and more data proficient. We want to make decisions that are informed. You want that data to be able to flow. You want one program to be able to talk to the other one. You want them to be able to be integrated and share information. So looking for those opportunities of, do you integrate with, how can I get my information from your system to another system, or maybe something like, a company like Paychex where we offer lots of integrations already, you can bring that to the table. So really looking at ways that you can centralize your information and make sure that the applications, the hardware, the technology that you're using can talk to each other and knows how to translate that information, I think is going to be really important.
Tell me about employees.
Yeah.
How do they fit in this equation? HR technology, I think, is unique in that it's used by the professionals, by the business owners, by operations managers, but also, at least the good technologies, used by employees. Pete Tiliakos, who we had earlier, had a great quote of Jetsons at home, Flintstones at work.
Yeah.
Which I loved that.
Yeah.
How do I evaluate that and the employee part of the experience?
Yeah, that's actually a lot of what my presentation was about is, when we're buying software, we're buying it for somebody. And oftentimes it's going to be employees of the company. We're looking to solve some problem for them. And so understanding who they are, what they're doing, and using those sort of tools like personas or journey maps to really understand what they're doing. We need to understand who they are because that's who we're buying the software for. When you think about the kinds of activities they do you want them spending time bringing the value that you hired them to bring, or spending time trying to overcome problems with the technology or the software or the processes or whatever it is? No, you want them bringing the value that you hired them to do. So I think that's really been sort of part of the way of looking at it, is ensuring that we're buying for an enablement of what we hired these people to do. So,
you bring up a great point too. You could have the best technology in the world. If it's not being adopted, if it's not being used, it's not going to help us. What advice would you give business owners, HR leaders, when they're bringing a new technology on board? How do I transition? How do I make it as effective as possible?
Yeah, I think, again, once you've understood your people, listen to them, right? Because they're going to tell you, they're going to speak back. I heard a quote somewhere, was just talking about employees who don't want to use software won't use the software. So it's really important in understanding what they're doing, what problems are they running into with the software, are there ways to overcome that, can you talk with the company that provides the software, whatever that might be. But yeah, adoption is it's critical, because if you spend all this money and time researching and then purchasing the software, hardware, whatever it is, you want to make sure your employees are going to use it. So yeah, definitely understanding and just listening, making sure that the software and what it offers is going to map to what your employees and people using the software really need it for.
Which really brings us to that question of customization. You talked earlier about unique needs.
Yeah.
We know no business is the same. They're all different. Everybody's got unique challenges. Even businesses in the same geography, same industry, have their own unique ways of going about it. That's what makes them special. How does customization play into that? Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way to handle that?
Yeah, I know there's a right or wrong way. It's really going to be situational. But I do think that customization is important. Because no one is the same, there's going to be times when you can purchase maybe a small tool and pair it with another tool that talks to each other with a good integration. Or maybe you can buy a suite of features and products from one company where it all talks together. There's lots of different options there. So being able to make sure that you're building and buying not only for today, but also for the expanding future of tomorrow, I think customization is going to play a huge role in serving the needs now and the needs tomorrow, because they're always going to be changing. As the economy changes, as your business evolves and you realize you get into things you've never done before, you're going to want to be able to have that flexibility to customize a shape, to plug things on, maybe take things out that you no longer need as your business adapts to a changing world.
Which kind of speaks to what we were talking about earlier, being able to integrate and work with systems that are useful, that people do get. How do I know when it's time to change? How do I know when it's time that maybe my current solution's really not getting me where I need to go?
Yeah, I think you're always faced with change, and that when is it time is always a hard question to answer. I think the best way of thinking about it, in my opinion, just as we critique this, when are you no longer willing to deal with that pain? When it's become so much that it's detracting from your customer experience, or it's detracting from your revenue and your profit, or employees are leaving over it, or whatever it might be. When you're hitting that point where the pain is so great that you're really kind of at an end with it, you maybe have waited a little too long. But
Usually, right?
Always be ready to kind of think about what's next. So really just planning and then being ready to make a move when the time and the pressure and the moment's right. So.
You talked about the flow of data earlier as well. I know a lot of solutions, we experience it ourselves. I'm sure every company does. I've got software for A, software for B, software for C. I'm trying to manage it. I'm trying to make them talk to each other. They don't. Tell me about how Paychex is trying to do something all in one, or build integrations to kind of ease some of that pain.
Yeah. I think, there's lots of things in the pipeline, stuff that I'm looking forward to talking about in the future.
There you go.
But at this point, just looking at, the way that we've built our software is really to try to make sure the data moves very seamlessly throughout it. There's always challenges to that, especially as we evolve and change and grow. But the company's actively working, and always, a lot of projects my team is on right now are helping to improve that data flow, improve the integration, making sure that when you're doing something in one part of the system, you see it clearly reflected in another part of the system. So I've really liked that sort of internal approach. But even to make it bigger and better, we're seeking a lot of partnerships and integrations with other people. We talk with Vizier, and they've been partnering with us to bring some data and analytics and some sort of analysis of that into our product. I mean, that's a huge partnership, and the what they can do to amplify the value that you already have invested in the Paychex has been great, and I'm really excited that we're exploring partnerships like that throughout.
So let's talk about the actual customers, our business owners, our HR leaders. What are the top 3 things you think they need to do to become the kind of organization where people want to work?
Yeah.
That talent first culture.
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this one because this is a hard one, and everyone has a different situation. But in my experience, I've done a lot of reading about this because I've grown into management. I've grown into mentoring people and coaching them and helping them grow. And I had a lot of failures. And the 3 things I think that really popped for me were, the first one is just listen. And not listen to respond or to correct. There are times for that you need to do that, but just listen and understand your employees. The more you work with them, the more you show care and help them feel heard, the more they're going to feel valued, and the more you're going to be able to serve them better and keep them and retain them. I think the second one that really, is important is not only that, but also helping them to grow. As everyone wants to grow at a different pace. Everyone has motivated by different things, but being able to provide them with opportunities to grow. Looking for things where maybe they are developing and you want to give them a shot to sort of prove themselves, or find a safe place to explore a new skill. I think that's another great one too, is just ensuring that you're providing your employees with opportunities to grow, really knowing them, and really giving them opportunities to expand their skill set over time with challenges that are really right-sized for them. And then I think the last one is autonomy. And I don't know if you're familiar with Daniel Pink. He's got a lot of great research into this, but in the world we live in today, we're no longer really in this manufacturing world. We're now in a knowledge working world. And in that world comes, people feel invested when they feel they have some level of autonomy. Yeah. So being able to create environments where people can bring their value to the table and help evolve things, I think is really critical. So, really, just listening, helping them grow, and then, giving them autonomy where it's appropriate and right size and sort of, head in the right direction. Those are 3 things I think have served well, and I'm excited to see, people put that into practice. So.
It's a great answer.
Yeah.
It's a great answer. All right, I want you to peer into your crystal ball. You're walking the show floor here in 2029.
Yeah.
Hopefully giving a great talk again.
Yeah.
What's different? What are you going to be seeing?
Oh, man. AI is so interesting right now. And we are really just, I think, at the tip of the iceberg. I think we're just understanding what we can do with it. And I think the unfolding future, as maybe the hype wears off a little bit, we're going to find newer, better applications of it. And we've already discovered a ton. But as we get settled with it, as we, I think, internalize it, as it becomes more integrated into our workflows and more normalized, I think it's going to play a huge part in the evolution of intelligence systems and helping us do our work. So I read a lot about artificial intelligence. I am still growing in my understanding of it. But I think, watching these systems become more peers to us, more helping us, I think is probably a huge future for us. So I'm excited about it. I also think, that's going to help us to find better connections and better partnerships. And I think the integration between software is going to change a lot too. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that's all going to evolve.
That's great.
Yeah.
This was a lot of great information, John. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here and excited to share a little bit. So
love it. And thank you to our listeners as well. As always, please stay happy and healthy.